Now we consider that this x now contains all the negative numbers. So this minus x, which refers to the side, or this minus x refers to the positive side right now. This minus x now contains any negative, any positive real number that is contained or that belongs to the positive side of the real number line, and the same thing goes for this y. And hence we can also say similarly that minus x is now greater than 0, and minus x, it should be minus y, sorry for that, then minus y is greater than 0. So as you can see, this we are previously we have assumed that we are now referring to the opposite side, and for this step 3 the opposite side lies on the or it's actually referring to the positive part, or the positive real number line that contains all the positive real numbers from the entire number line, and the same thing goes for y. So the opposite side, which is the positive side right now, this opposite side contains all the number that are greater than 0, or this means all the positive real numbers. And hence for y similarly we can also see that um, for this side we are with minus y we are referring to the positive side of the real number line, and the positive side will have all the values that are greater than 0, or will contain all the values that are positive real numbers. And hence we can now formulate, or we can actually bring in the left hand component, which is the x minus y. Now let me scroll down, and when I bring that up, the funny thing is I can't even see clearly why I actually lose this cursor. It's it's so small. Nonetheless, let's continue. So we are now going to apply positive x, and we are going to apply positive y, and this means that we are now referring to all the positive values lying on the positive side of the real number line, and we are also referring the positive y values lying on the real number line, or on the positive side of the real number line. And this gives us something like this: x minus I shouldn't have applied that bracket. So x minus y, and hence this is just the same thing. Now the interesting part is that we will have to apply rule 1 in here. So let's apply rule 1. Let's write something like applying rule 1. So we will write applying rule 1. So when we apply rule 1, we can see, or we can bring from the rule 1 the equation which is the absolute value of negative x, or the absolute value of minus x, is equals to the absolute value of x. So when we apply rule 1 and we bring in the second, or we bring in the, actually this is something like, we can write that minus xy, let me rewrite this in here so that it becomes clearer. So minus xy is equivalent to negative y minus x. So let me get this straight. So I am actually considering this, because I'm now considering this everything in terms of x and y, you might get confused. So let me rewrite this. X now belongs, or I mean x now contains a minus b. Or let me actually rewrite rule 2. So rule 2 is something like this. So this was supposed to be y minus x equals to, so x minus, okay, x minus y is equals to y minus x. So I can also, rather than actually assuming the variables of x and y, you can also assume the variables of a minus b is equals to b minus a. So I think this will get a lot easier for you to understand rather than always using this x and y variables. But nonetheless, let's assume that we now have brought the equation, I mean, we now have brought rule 1 inside rule 2. So in rule 2, we are now going to apply inside x this, we will now apply this segregated, this is actually, let me write this as a minus b, and let me erase this off. So now you can see that the left hand side from this part contains a minus b, or you can also say this is the absolute value of a minus b, and from this we can see, from this part we can see, we can also write a minus b. So this a minus b, without this bars, we can now apply this entire a minus b contained inside this bracket inside this x. So this gives us something like minus x minus y, and hence when we actually see that, or when we open up the bracket inside these bars, then we can see that minus and minus makes plus y. So this becomes plus y, and minus and plus makes something like plus minus x. So we don't take off the absolute bars or the absolute symbols, so we just keep them, and we can now see that we have arrived at the right hand side. So this is how we can actually nest or include one rule inside another rule. So let me erase this off. So this was just for the purpose of understanding. So the main point or the major factor is that you don't have to actually include everything that is referred by the variables of x and y. I mean, you don't always have to include, or you don't always have to use the variables of x and y. If it's hard for you to understand it, or if it gets jumbled up together, then you can actually go back to using other variable names or other alphabets like A, B, C, D. So these are just the conventional way of using X and Y. That's why we always stick to this convention. And it actually becomes rather easier when you go on practicing, and you won't even have to think about using other variable names. So let's get to rule 3.